Hi and welcome to this on Maths prediction for the AQA Maths GCSE Paper 2 Foundation. Enjoy! Hi, I'm Chris Gilpin from On Maths. Now, what we do for this prediction is we take off all of the questions that came up in the Paper 1 and we look at the remaining topics and see how often they've come up before, both on the new GCSEs and on the old GCSEs, and we make a prediction. Now, like I said on the Paper 1 prediction, this is only used as part of your revision and not the sole purpose of your revision. So don't just look at this and leave it at that. However, as you might have seen with the Paper 1 questions, quite a few came up across the different exam boards. But our predictions get more and more accurate as we go on, because obviously we now have seen the Paper 1, so you can make predictions for the Paper 2. All of our questions, all the questions you're going to see on this paper, you can do online on our website, onmaths.com. And if you go onto the website for free, you can either not sign up and just do the paper, and that's absolutely fine, or you can sign up and it will save your scores so you can try it multiple times, see if you can improve the scores. The onmaths.com also has topic busters, so you can practice every single topic. It also has demon questions for the harder style questions, and they're short little exams. They're only, I think, 20 marks, but they are just the toughest ones. And there's a whole load more things on the site. A new thing we're about to launch, so probably by the time you've seen this video, we have launched it, is the Revisionator. Now, the Revisionator is only skills-based questions, so no difficult questions. We leave that for the demon questions. But what we've managed to do is take off all the topics that have previously come up and allow you just to revise a random selection of skills-based questions that might come up. So if you use the Revisionator, it will allow you just to focus on the topics that you need to focus on for the exam. So we're really excited to launch that. If you're watching this as soon as it comes out, it might not be launched yet, but hopefully it will be launched next week. So really looking forward to that. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments tab below. If you like this video, please click like. And if you want to see more videos from us, especially the Paper 3 prediction, please click subscribe. I hope you enjoy. When we're asked to write a number in figures, it just means as numbers. So we've got 5,026. We need a 0 there as a placeholder. So you're just going to write 5026, 5026. Next question says, write down the value of 8. Now, if we remember, and let's just write the number a little bit bigger. This is our units column. This is our tenths column. And this is our hundredths column. So the value of the 8 is 8 hundredths. We can write that as a fraction, 8 hundredths. And that's the answer. Question C, write down 655 correct to the nearest 10. Okay, so 655, if we just do a quick number line, 655, the next 10 up is 660. And the next one down is 650. So those are the two it can round to. This 655 is bang on halfway, and if they are halfway, they round upwards. So the answer is 660. I'll draw that properly. If it was any less, if it was 654, it would round down. So if the last number, if that number there is 5 or more, it will round up. For this question, we need to understand the difference between multiples and factors. Multiples are just a numbers times table. So the multiples of 5 will be 5, 10, 15, 20, etc., etc. Now, every number in the 5 times table ends in 0 or 5. So looking at the list of numbers we've got here, there's only one that ends in a 5 or a 0, which is 10. So 10 is a multiple of 5. Now, factors go the other way. A factor of a number means that the number, so 24, is in another numbers times table. So 24, and the easiest way to find the factors of 24 is you start off with 1 and 24, because 1 times 24 is 24. then you go 2 times, well, 12, 3 times 8, 4 times, and you think how many 4s? 6. 5 times, well, that doesn't work. 6 times we've already got. So those 8 numbers are the factors of 24. Then I look at the list, well, already there's a 24 there. Is there any other ones I could have written? I don't see any other ones, so 24 is my answer there. 2 prime numbers. Now prime numbers mean they only have 2 factors, 1 and themselves. Okay, that's a prime number. If there's any more factors, it's not a prime number. So let's go through the list. 10 is in the 5 times table, which we identified in question A, so that's not a prime number. 24, well, we've listed out 6 other factors of 24, so that's not in it. 18 is 3 times 6, so that's not going to be it. 17, I don't think of any times tables that 17 is in, so I'm going to say 17 is a prime number, which it is. And 19, well, I can't think of any times tables 19 is in, so I think that's a prime number. Let's go through the rest to make sure. So 16 is 2 and 8, so that's not a prime number. And any even number apart from 2 is not going to be a prime number. 2 is the only even prime number. 27 looks like it might be, but actually 3 times 9 is 27, so it's definitely not. And 28 is another even number. So it looks like we found the 2 prime numbers. So this question asks us to write the smallest odd number. Now there's 2 instructions there. We need to make the smallest number from the digits, and it needs to be odd. So to make the smallest number, we want to use the smallest digits on the left hand side of the number and the largest digits on the right hand side of the number. Okay. We also need the last number to be odd. Now to make a number odd, the last number needs to be 1, 3, 5, 7 or 9. Okay, so looking at the largest numbers, the largest number is 6, so we want to end on a 6. However, 6 is an even number, therefore if we end on a 6, it will be an even number. So we've got to look at the largest odd number, which is the 5. So the 5 is going to go here to make the number odd. Then we need to use up that 6 next. And then the next largest number is the 4, and then 3. So my answer is 3,465. Now always just check to see whether we've answered the question. It says it wants the smallest odd number. Well, that's an odd number, and I can't think of a way of swapping those digits to make it any smaller, because we've used the smallest numbers we can on the left hand side and the biggest on the right hand side. So for this question, you just kind of got to imagine what the shape will look like when it's finished. And the thing that's stopping it from looking perfect is not having this square here. And let's just check it has 4 lines of symmetry when I put that in. So we've got one there, we've got one across here, then we have a diagonal one here, and then we've got another diagonal one here. So it has 4 lines of symmetry. Alright, so the first place to start on this is to plot the points. So point A is at -3, -2. So along the corridor and up the stairs, well, we're going across -3 on the x-axis, which is this one here, and then we're going to go down 2 on the y-axis. So it's this one here. A really common mistake is to muddle them up. So as long as you remember you're going across and then up or down, obviously if it's negative you go down, then you should be fine. Now it says point A, so I probably should label that as A. And point B is 0, 3. It means we're not going left or right at all. We're just going to stay at 0, but we could go up 3. So it's going to be there. And point C is at 3, -2. So along 3, down 2. Which could be that one there. So that's point C. And it says plot and join these coordinates. So I'm just going to get my ruler and plot and join them. Well, we've plotted them, so we're just going to join them. And there we go. Makes a nice little shape there. Now, question B says, what type of triangle is ABC? So, looking at it, it looks like this length here and this length here are exactly the same length. So, when we've got a triangle with two sides the same length, it's an isosceles triangle. And try and learn the spelling of isosceles, because it does look better when you spell it right. I remember it's ISOSCELES. The SOS is like a Morse code thing to get help, save our souls. So I've always remembered SOS, as in, oh my goodness, I don't know how to spell isosceles. The easiest way to order decimals is just to put yourself a few columns down the page, and hopefully I'm going to try and get enough columns. I always end up with not enough, so if I put some extra ones in, then that should suffice. And just literally put the numbers in, so 14.828, and make sure the decimal points are lined up, so 8.60 is going to be like this, and I'm going to put an extra 0 in to make them all the same length. It doesn't change the number at all. So 14.86, I'm going to put 0 in there, 14.820, and then 14.7. Now, we're starting with the smallest, so I'm looking for the smallest one first. Well, the smallest one's leaping out, because if I just look at this column, there's only one number that has a 0 there, all the rest of them have 1. So the 8.60, and I have to put the 0 because that's how it's said in the question, is definitely the smallest. So we can cross that out. That's definitely the smallest. All the other ones are tied. They're all 1 in that column. So we move over to the next column, the next one to the right. So 4, 4, 4, 4, they're all tied. So I keep moving along. Okay, there's a clear loser in this one. There's a clear one that's the smallest in this one. The bottom one, 14.7. So that's definitely the next smallest. So I can cross that one out. All the other 3 have tied because they're all 8. So I move on to the next column. Now, looking at this, there's 2 2s and a 6. Now that 6 is definitely the biggest number, so I could fill that in as the biggest number. And we've just got to work out what the smaller of these remaining 2 are. Well, let's move on a column. And you can see here that 14.82 is the smallest or smaller of the 2. And so that leaves the 14.828 in that position. Now always just double check the 5 numbers you've listed are the same as in the question. That's the same. 18.60, that's the same. 14.86, that's the same. 14.82 is the same, and 14.7 is the same. You sometimes lose a mark if you haven't written exactly the same number. Same goes for when there's fractions and decimals. You've got to write down the number that it showed in the question. So we're given a basic formula to work out how long this turkey is going to take to cook. It says that the cooking time, so we can just call that time, is the weight, which it says is a 3 kilogram turkey, and just check that the units are the same, which they are. So it's the 3 times 30, then add 90. 3 times 30 is 90, and 90 plus 90 is 180. Now just double check that it wants it in minutes. Sometimes it'll ask for it in hours. Well, it says it wants it in minutes, so 180. Make sure that you know the names of the parts of the circles. So a diameter is a line that just goes across a circle going through the centre. If it doesn't go through the centre but it goes across the circle, it's a chord. A bit of a circumference is the whole way around the circle. A bit of a circumference is called an arc. And there's a few more parts of a circle you need to know. Now, on this question, there's a line which touches the circle just at one point, and it's a straight line. the name for that is tangent. Okay, so this is quite a tricky question because it mixes fractions and ratios together, but we've got to be comfortable with that. So I'd first of all just show the information so that I can get my head around it. So we've got Denver, who as a fraction has 3/19 of the food, and so that leaves how much? Well, we've got a calculator, so we could just do 1 take away 3/19 on the calculator, but we know that that's going to be 16/19. So we can kind of ignore Denver now because we used Denver's amount, or fraction of the food, to work out Engels and Fido's combined. So that's how much food they'll get, but they're sharing it in the ratio of 5:2. So in total, the amount of parts they have is 5 plus 2, which is 7. So there's 7 parts altogether. Okay, and each part, so one part, is going to be worth, well, as a fraction, it's 16/19 divided by 7. So 16/19 on the calculator divided by 7, which gives us 16/133. So that's the fraction of each part. Now it says, show what is Fido's share. So we're looking for Fido's share. Now Fido gets 2 lots of that. So looking for Fido, he gets 2 lots of that fraction. So I'm going to times that by 2 on the calculator, which is 32/133. Now it does say show your answer as a percentage rounded to the nearest percent. So to work between fractions and percentages, I just need to times by 100. So what I can do is just times that by 100. I'll do it on the calculator, times by 100, and press S to D if it comes up as a fraction, and it says 24.060 blah blah blah. So to the nearest percent, Fido gets 24%. With any sequence, the first thing to check is whether it goes up by the same amount. Well, looking at this goes up by 1, this goes up by 3, so it's not going up by the same amount. This goes up by 4, this goes up by 7. But something you might notice is this goes up by 7, and yet there's a 7 here. This one goes up by 4, and there's a 4 here. This goes up by 3, and there's a 3 here. This is what we call the Fibonacci sequence. So the Fibonacci sequence just starts off with 2 numbers, and then we add the previous 2 terms to get to the next term. So we'll add these 2 together to get to the next one. Then we add these 2 together to get to the next one. So to find the next one, we need to add the 11 and the 18 together. 18 plus 11 is going to be 29. So the next term is going to be the 29th term. Let's just check that's the 6th term. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, that would be the 6th term, would be 29. Then we need to add the 18 and the 29 together. And when the numbers get big, if it's not on the calculator paper, you can just add them like this. So 9 plus 8 is 17, and that's going to be 3 plus 1, which is 4. So it's going to be 47. So the 7th term is going to be 47. So always just check that the sequence isn't a Fibonacci sequence before you start to panic and think, what is this sequence? Always check for a Fibonacci sequence, which is just that the previous 2 terms are added together to make the next term. When solving, always just write out the question and put down lines either side of the equals. And what we're looking at doing is doing something to both sides so that we get x on its own. So we want to end up with x equals at the bottom. That's when we know we've solved it. So looking at the left hand side, we need to get rid of this 6 here and the takeaway 6 there. Now we must remove the plus or the minus first, as long as it's not trapped in a bracket or a fraction. So we're going to get rid of the minus 6 To do that, we need to do the opposite of it. So we need to add 6 to both sides. So we're going to end up with 6x on the left-hand side, because we've got rid of the minus 6. We're going to add 6 to that to make 60. Now we want to get rid of the 6 before the x. Now that's a times 6. When you put a number next to a letter, it's a times. So to get rid of it, we need to divide 6. So we're going to end up with x on the left-hand side, and 60 divided by 6 is 10. So the answer is x equals 10. Didn't need that much room in the end, and that's it. So this question says there's a tennis tournament being played where each player plays each other once. And there's multiple ways of doing this. One of the ways is listing out all the different combinations. But this question only asks for how many tennis matches are being played. So you don't need to list them out, and sometimes you will need to list them out. This one you don't. So let's start off with a liar. A liar has 4 people that they're going to play against. William, Paul, Samantha and Christine. William, well, we've already counted a liar's match with William, so William only has 3 left that he can play. Then Paul we've already counted his match with the other 2, so he's only going to play Samantha and Christine, other than his matches we've already counted. Samantha's only got Christine left to play after we counted all the other matches. And Christine's matches have already been counted so far. So we've got the 4 matches a liar's going to play, 3 matches that William's going to play, not counting the one we've already counted from a liar, plus the 2 Paul's going to play, plus the other one that Samantha's going to play. So 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So in total, there are 10 different matches going to be played. Okay, so we're asked to write 88 as a product of its prime factors. So the first thing to do is write 88, and then we have 2 shoots coming from it. Now I need to find out which 2 numbers times together to make 88. Now a little tip, if you've got an even number, always pick 2. So 2 times 44. Now whenever we get to a prime number, we always circle it, because that's finished. So 44, we can get another 2 out of that, we'll divide another 2 out of that, so 2 and 22, 2 and 11. Now 11 is also a prime number, and when you're left with just prime numbers, then you write your answer out like this. Now if you're also asked to write it in index form, that means instead of 2 times 2 times 2, you're going to write 2 to the power of 3 times 11. Now don't work that out, because that will give you 88. So 2 cubed times 11 is 88. Okay, so this question says that Kaylee is painting a wall, and it shows us the dimensions of the wall, which is 6 meters by 4 meters. And it shows us each tin of paint covers 2 meters squared and costs £1.70. And it says how much will it cost Kaylee to fully paint the wall. So the first thing we've got to work out is the area of the wall. And the area will be 6 times 4, so base times height, which is 24 meters squared. Next thing we've got to work out is how many tins of paint we need. So the amount of tins, well, we've got to cover 24, and each tin of paint covers 2 meters squared. So it's going to be 24 divided by 2, which is going to be 12 tins of paint. Now it says the cost of each tin of paint is £1.70. So we're going to work out the total cost by doing the 12, because we need 12 tins of paint. We're going to times it by 1.7, or £1.70. So 12 times 1.7 is 20.4. And just remember, in money, you need to have it to 2 decimal places, so it's £20.40. With two-way tables, we've got to use the totals to work out the missing numbers. So a nice place to start is this box here. If we have a look, we've got a total of 46 people with brown eyes, 23 of them are female. So all you need to do is 46 and take away the 23, and that leaves 23 left over. Now let's have a look at a nice easy one. Right, green eyes, that's a nice easy one there. We've got 48 in total, and 27 females with green eyes. So we want to do 48, take away 27, and that leaves us with 21. Now if we have a look at this one, we have 23 females 23 males with brown eyes, 18 males with blue eyes, and 21 males with green eyes. And we assume that there weren't any others because they're not in the table. So we add those together and that gives us 62 in total. And let's have a look at this one maybe. So we've got 62 females altogether, and we've got 27 of them have green eyes and 23 of them have brown eyes. So we take the 23 and the 27 away from 62, and that leaves us with 12. And we can just check that. We can do 23 plus 12 plus 27, and it equals 62. So we know that's right. With that one sorted, we can get this one. And if there's 18 males with blue eyes and 12 females with blue eyes, that means there's going to be 30 altogether. Now this total is either the total of these ones or the total of these ones, and they should give you the same number. Don't add the blue and the green ones together, so it's only one of them. So 46 plus 30 plus 48 is 124. And let's just check that. 62 plus 62 is also 124. So don't ever write down 248 because that's not correct. So in total there are 124 people whose eye colour were checked. This question seems quite daunting at first, but actually if you break it down it's quite simple. So we're going to work out the students? So we're going to work out students first. And then what I'm going to do on the right hand side is work out the merit points. So the students we've got are James. Now James has X merit points. That's nice and simple. Sarah has 4 times as many as James. So Sarah, if James has X, is going to have 4X merit points. Robert has 53 fewer. So Robert is going to have James's X but take away 53. Okay, next thing I want to focus on is the merits. Well, it says the merits are worth that amount in total, and each merit's worth that amount. So what I'm going to do first of all is convert that into pence. So we've got 1,749 pence. And if each of them is worth 3 pence, I can divide it by 3 to work out how many merit points. And if you've got a calculator, you can just type that in. If it's on the non-calculator, then we can use the bus stop method. So 1749, 3's into 1 don't go, 3's into 17 go 5, carry the 2, 3's into 24 go 8, 3's into 9 go 3. So that's 583. Now it says here that all 3 of the students have a total of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add James's to Sarah's and to Robert's. So we're going to add them together, and they're going to equal 583. So when I collect like terms on the left hand side, x plus 4x plus x is 6x minus 53 equals 583. Now when we solve equations, we always get rid of the plus or minus first, as long as there's no brackets or fractions. So to get rid of that minus 53, I need to do the opposite, which is add 53. So we've got 6x left on this side. Now we need to do 583 plus 53. So 3 plus 3 is 6, 8 plus 5 is 13, and 5 plus 1 is 6, so 636. And to get rid of the x here, that's a times x, so I need to divide both sides by x. So we're left with x on the left hand side. Now this is going to be quite a simple bus-stop method, but I'm going to do it anyway. So 6, 3, 6. So 6 into 6 go once, 6 into 3 don't go, 6 into 36 go 6. So it's 106. So x is worth 106. So James has 106. Now Sarah has 4 times as many, so that's going to be 424. And Robert has 53 less, so 106 take away 53. So 6 take away 3 is 3. 10 take away 5 is 5, so that's going to be 53. Now if you've got time left in the end of the exam, you can add them together and see if they add up to 583, which they should. So you'll need a calculator for this question. The different calculators do things slightly different, but by far the most common calculator, and if you haven't got one, I would recommend them, are the Casio calculators. Mine has a shiny solar panel on the top, but you don't need that. The average battery life lasts way longer than you'll ever need the calculator. So the first button I would press, and there's different ways of doing this question, is the button to get the fraction, which on the Casios looks like this. And that will make a fraction appear on your calculator. Now, some of the older ones, the fraction looks a bit weird. It involves like a symbol like this. And actually on the new ones it can, but you need to change the settings if it does that. It should open up, it should look something like this, like a box and then another box. And there should be a cursor blinking in this box. Okay, so we want to fill in this top box first, since it's already flashing. So 76.8 plus 81.9. Okay, and so to shift downwards on the Casio calculators, there's a sort of cursor, like a cursor stick, a direction button thing. It's the big blue button beneath the screen on most of the calculators, and you just push the down to go to the denominator of the fraction. And then we need to fill in this bit here, so 0.19, and then to get the squared button, it's on like that. So you just press that, and it looks exactly as it does in the question on the screen, so you know you've got it right. So you press the equals, and my one comes up with 4396.121884. Now, it might be tempting to try and round that, but it says it wants all the figures, so just put them all in. Now, if your calculator is set to a mode which it's going to show even more numbers, then normally six digits after the decimal point is more than enough. They won't require you to go to 100 or 200 decimal places. On this question, that's actually an exact amount. Okay, so write down correct to 2 significant figures. Now, to do 2 significant figures, we start counting at the start of the number. So I'm going to do a red line where you need to start counting. And you just count 1, 2 numbers. So the blue line is where I've stopped counting. Now, all of these numbers here are going to be reset to 0. They're going to go away. Well, not quite. Let's come to that later. Now, this number here, the 9, is what we call a decider number. Now, that number is going to go. That 9 is gone. Okay? But before it goes, we need to see whether that is 5 or more or 4 or less. If it's 5 or more, it pushes that 3 up to a 4. So the answer will be 4, 4, and then you'd think, oh, okay, that's it, rounded, and you'd write that in your answer column. But when I said they disappear, they don't quite disappear. All the numbers above the green line that I've just drawn reset to 0. They turn to 0. Now, if you think about it, if I don't know what would have a decimal place, but if you have a number 4,396.121884 written down, and someone says, "Can you tell me roughly how much that is?" then if you say the answer of 44, that's not roughly 44, it's nowhere near 44. So the 9 and the 6 will turn to 0. And actually the other numbers do too. But these numbers here are not changing the number at all. These two zeros here will make that 4,400 instead of just 44. The other numbers after decimal point, we might as well get rid of them. So the answer is 4,400. Okay, because we don't need to show these numbers. Now, the reason students make this mistake is they're so used to decimal places. Now, decimal places, you always remove them because they're always after the decimal point. But with significant figures, they need to turn to zeros. Alright, so we're asked to draw a frequency polygon, and the only error you're going to make with this type of question is figuring out what a frequency polygon is. Now, a frequency polygon is where you put little crosses at the points, and the points lie at the group's midpoint. So we've got our first group 0 to 10, so the midpoint would be 5. Next one is 10 to 20, so that's going to be 15. Then 25, then 35, then 45. So the first one's going to be at 5 and it's going to be 6 high. It's going to be like that. Next one's 15, 22. So 22 would be about there. 25, 59. So 59 would be right up here. 25. 35, 15. A little bit lower than that, but that's fine. 45, 4. Now we're only halfway done, and my points aren't exact because the screen I'm using isn't the most precise, but it's good enough. We're only halfway done because what we need to do is join these up with straight lines, so no curves needed. And when you join them up with straight lines, do not ever join up the last 2 points. You're not actually trying to make a polygon, okay? So don't ever, when you join them up, whatever, right? Don't ever draw this line here, okay? That's not a good thing to do, so make sure you don't do that. Okay, and that's it. So midpoints, crosses, and then join them up with straight lines if you're asked for a frequency polygon. Alright, so it says that the town council is saying that over a quarter of the stores get over 30 customers. So we're going to see whether that's right. So over 30 customers would be these two groups here, so 30 to 40 and 40 to 50. So that is 19 altogether. So that's 19 out of, and let's add all the rest up, so 6 plus 22 plus 59 plus 15 plus 4, out of 106. It didn't say it in the question. So it's 19 out of 106, which as a decimal, 19 over 106 be 0.179 to 3 decimal places. So what I would say in the exam is no, because that is 17% or 17.9%. So it's less than 25%. And just write a sentence saying that yes, it's close, but it's not quite at 25%, because even rounding up to the nearest percentage, it's 18%, which is 7% lower than 25%. So just make sure you write all of the numbers in an answer that answers the question. With best value questions, which this is one of, there's normally multiple ways of doing it. Either you get the price per item, or you get how much of the item you get for 1 pence, or you get them to so that they're the same amount of items and then you compare the prices. Now this one asks for the price per tissue, so that's the way we've got to answer this question. So we're going to have tissues on the left hand side and price, and I'm going to do it in pence because it's normally a lot easier to work out when it's in pence. I'm just going to draw a line down the side. So we're going to start off with the box of 24, and it costs 802 pence. Now to get one tissue, I'm going to divide both sides by 24. So if I divide both sides by 24, I get one tissue. So I do 802 divided by 24, and I get 33.416 recurring. Okay, let's try the next one. So that's one done. In fact, if I draw a line, then I can show that I've done that. Okay, so the next one is 20 tissues, and that costs 689 pence. So this time I'm going to divide both sides by 20, so I know how much one tissue costs. So 689 divided by 20 on the calculator, and I get 34.45 pence. Okay, and the last one, let's draw our line. So the last one's 15 tissues, and it costs 538 pence. So this time I'm going to divide both sides by 15 to work out one tissue. Okay, so 538 divided by 15, and this time I get 35.86 recurring. Okay, so first of all, let's get the price in. So it says rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, so this first one is 33.42, because that one moves up. The 20 tissue box is 34.45, and the last one is 35.87, because that 6 would round up. So which one is the best value? Well, if you have a look at the 24 tissue box, it's only costing 33 pence, just over 33 pence, whilst the 20 tissue box costs over 34 pence and the 15 tissue box costs over 35 pence. Well, which one would you rather buy? Well, I'd rather buy the one that the tissues cost the least. So the best value is the 24 soft tissues. Now, in your answer, make sure that you write exactly the same as in the question, so that it's absolutely clear which one that you think is the best value. Now, if you worked the other way, if the question didn't specify how to do it, and you were working out the amount of tissues you get per penny, then obviously it works the other way. You want the biggest number because you want the maximum amount of tissues per penny. So just be a little bit careful of that. Okay, so question A is about reverse percentages. So in 2014 and 2015, well, let's have a look. So the sales went down between the two. So if we start off with 100% and they went down 12%, what we're left with? Well, we're left with 88%. Now, as a multiplier, and this is the best way of doing this, 88% divided by 100, make it a decimal, is 0.88. Now that number, 0.88, is what we times the 2014 sales to get 2015. But in this question, we're given the 2015 sales, so we're given this one here. So we want to work backwards. So what we want to do is we want to do, I'll get my calculator, 7,359 divided by 0.88, and that gives me £8,362.50. You've got to ask yourself, well, is that reasonable? Well, they went down by 12%, so it's natural that they would go from a number around just over 8,000 to a number that's just over 7,000. So I'm going to write the answer, £8,362.50. Okay, and the next question says that the sales went up in 2016, or they have a target to get their sales up in 2016. What's the percentage increase? Now, percentage increase or percentage decrease, it's the same formula, is change over original times 100. So the change, well, that's going to be 12272, take away the 2015 sales, so that's that one there, 7359. So they're looking for it to change by 4,913. The original was at 7,359, and we need to times by 100. So I'm going to divide that by 7359 times it by 100. And that gives me 66.7617 blah blah blah. So that's to the nearest percent, so that's going to be 67%. This is quite an unusual question because it's asking us to find the mean from a bar line graph. Now, what I would do is I'd first of all just start drawing a table for this information because I'm used to finding the mean from a table. So that's what I'm going to do. And so we've got pets, we've got the frequency, and we'll worry about the last column in a second. So 0 pets, the frequency is 6. 1 pet, the frequency is 10. 2 pets, the frequency is 6. 3 pets, the frequency is 6. And 4 pets, frequency is 1. Now to find the mean you add an fx column, and I always call this, whatever is here, x, and I always call the frequency f, so it's the fx column, and you just times them together. So it's just a way of finding out those 6 that were 0, well how many is that in total? Well that's going to be 0. Those 10 that had 1 pet, how many pets is that in total? 10. Those 6 people who had 2 pets, well how many pets are there in total? Well 2 times 6, which is 12. There were 6 people with 3 pets, so that's 18 pets altogether. And there was 1 person with 4 pets, so that's 4 altogether. Then what you want to do is you want to add up the fx column, and we do that with a little e symbol, just means sum of. So I'm going to do that on the calculator now. So 0 plus 10 plus 12 plus 18 plus 4, which is 44. You also want to add up the frequency column, so sum of frequency. So it sometimes tells you in the question how many there are, so just double check that. So I'm going to add those together, so that's 29. Now the mean is all of the stuff added together over how many there are. So you kind of want to swap these over. Okay. So it's 44 over, which means divide, 29. So 44 divided by 29. And it comes up with a fraction on the calculator, so just press S to D. And that equals 1.5172, blah, blah, blah. It asks for 2 decimal places, so to 2 decimal places that is 1.52, because that 7 moves that 1 up. Okay, so this question's about exchange rates, and this part here is quite important. If I just rewrite that to make it a bit bigger, this is basically saying that to get from pounds to dollars, we just need to times by 1.42. And you can get that by just dividing the right hand side by the left hand side. Now 1.42 divided by 1 is just 1.42. So the problem with this question though is that it wants the answer in pounds, so we'll need to convert both of these things into pounds. So we're actually going the other way. When we go the other way, instead of times we just divide. So we're dividing both sides, or we're dividing dollars by 1.42 to get to pounds. So we've got $3,000 and we want to convert it into pounds. So we're going to divide it by 1.42, and I'm just going to type that into my calculator. So 3,000 divided by 1.42, and it's to the nearest pound 2112.6, and we'll round to 8. Obviously to 2 decimal places, because money is always to 2 decimal places. So it says also that that the laptop costs £2,500 in the UK, and how much cheaper is the laptop in the USA than the UK. So what we need to do now is we need to do £2,500, which is the price of the laptop in the UK. We're going to take away the £2,112.68, And on my calculator, I'm just going to type in 2500 take away answer, and then press equals, and it gives me the answer of 387.32. So it's £387.32 cheaper. So when you have a right angled triangle and you're given two of the lengths, and you're asked to find a third length, which I'm going to call x, then it's going to be Pythagoras. Be careful, because if there's an angle involved, either you're asked to find an angle or you're just given an angle on the side, then you'll be using trigonometry. So when we use Pythagoras, there are two methods that I know of to work it out. There's the algebraic method, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and that's absolutely fine to use. I'm not going to use that method because if you're happy using that method, go on, use it, not a problem. The only thing to remember about that method is that c must be the hypotenuse. Okay, now I'm going to do a method that doesn't involve algebra at all for people who are not very happy with the a squared plus b squared equals c squared method. So my method comes with three steps. Step 1 is just square every number that you have and put the biggest one first. Okay, so I'm going to do 7.1 squared and I'm going to do 4.6 squared. So on my calculator, 7.1 squared, and that equals 50.41, and 4.6 squared equals 21.16. So step 1's done, I've squared them all. Step 2 is the only choice you have to make. You either have to add or subtract. Okay, now this is where we talk about the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the length that's opposite the right angle. So go to the right angle, go across from it, and that is the hypotenuse. So 7.1 is the hypotenuse. Now what's special about the hypotenuse and why it has a special name is it must be the longest side. So in step 2, have a think, well, if we add them, we'll get a bigger number. Well, the hypotenuse must be the biggest side. So when you're finding another side, not the hypotenuse, you will subtract. But if I was finding the hypotenuse, so I wanted a bigger number than the other two, then I would add. So I'm going to do 50.41 minus 21.16, and that's why in step 1 we did the biggest one first, because otherwise you'll get a negative number. So 50.41 take away 21.16, and that equals 29.25. Okay, and step 3 is a nice easy step, it's just root it. So with this one, I'm just going to press square root answer, and then I have, so I'm going to write that down, square root 29.25, and so that equals 5.4083, blah blah blah. It says it wants its two decimal places, so I'm going to write 5.41 because that 8 moves that 0 up by 1. Now, last step is just check it makes sense. Well, this being 5.41 means that the 7.1 is still the longest side, so we know we've probably got it right. Okay, in order to this question, we need to be familiar with the formula y equals mx plus c. Now, the m in this is the gradient, and the c, or the plus c, is the y-intercept. Now the first thing we need to find out is the gradient, so we're going to work out m first. Now to do the gradient, the formula is change in y over change in x. So if you have a look, we start off at 5 for the x and minus 10 for the y, and then we go to 13 for the x and minus 42 for the y. So to work out the change in y, we do the final y, which is minus 42, and we take away the initial y, which is minus 10. We'll do the same with the x's, so 13 take away 5, and find out how much it's changed. So those two minuses make a plus, so it's minus 42 plus 10, which is minus 32, over, and then we're going to do 13 take away 5, which is 8. Okay, so minus 32 divided by 8 is going to be minus 4. So the gradient is minus 4. So we know that it's going to be y equals minus 4x plus something. So we could need to work out what the y-intercept is. And the way of doing that is we just put in the two values here. We could have picked the other ones into y equals mx plus c. So we're going to find out what c is by substituting in those values. So it's going to be minus 10 equals, and then we've worked out the gradient, which is minus 4, times the x, which is 5, plus c. Now c is the one we're trying to find, so we're going to leave that as a c. Okay, so minus 10 equals minus 4 times 5 is minus 20, plus c, and we're going to add 20 to both sides. So that's going to be 10 equals c, or c equals 10. I mean, same thing. Okay, so we've worked out what c is, so we can actually write the formula now, or the equation of the line now. So it's minus 4x plus 10, which is plus 10 because c is positive. If c was negative, it would be take away the value. Okay, so this question, it looks like a standard bearings question, but something you might notice is there's no angles in it. So if there's no angles in it, we need something else, and that something else is going to involve the right angled triangle here. So we can see there's a right angled triangle here, and we know that when we've got right angled triangle, we've got two sides, we can find an angle with trigonometry. I'm going to call this angle x. Now to find x, we need trigonometry, and to do trigonometry, we need to label the sides. So we've got the opposite here, which is opposite the angle we want. We've got the adjacent here, and we've got the hypotenuse here. Well, the hypotenuse is no interest. We're not looking for it, and we're not given it. So it's O and A. So writing SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA. Well, we're not interested in the H, so it's not going to be SO, and it's not going to be KA, so it's going to be TOA. So TOA stands for tan x equals opposite over adjacent, and the opposite is 47, and the adjacent is 72. Now we want to work out what x is, so to do that we want to inverse tan both sides. Okay, let's just scroll down. Okay, so on the calculator you want to click shift or the equivalent on your calculator and then tan, and then you press the fraction button, 47, and go down, 72. Just don't forget to close the brackets. Every time you click tan or inverse tan, it opens a set of brackets. Just make sure you shut them. Let's press equals, and that equals 33.1356, blah blah blah. Okay, let's have a look. So x is 33, but we still haven't got a bearing. What we can do is work out what this one is, and I'm going to call that y. So to work out what y is, it's going to be 33.1. Well, we're looking for nearest whole number, so let's call that 33. And then we're going to add the right angle here. Now, the reason I know this is a right angle here is because it says that he heads west and then south. So I know that both the angle here and the angle here are going to be right angles, because the angle between all four, north, east, south and west, all four directions are going to be right angles. So I'm going to add 90. And you can do this in the calculator, or you can do it in your head. I'm going to do it on the calculator. 123. Okay, now bearings, something that we've got to remember, are always from north going clockwise. So it's always going to be like that. It's going to be that angle there. So to do that, we're going to do 360. We're going to take away the 123 because that's what we don't want. So on a calculator, 360, take away 123, and that's 237. So the answer is 237 degrees. So we're asked to find the amount of females who went on the log flume from a sample of 40, even though the amounts are out of 79. Now this is called stratified sampling, and it means that we've got a sample, which means a part of the population. Our population is 79, and we're just not going to ask everyone because that would take too long or cost too much depending on the circumstance. So we're only going to ask 40, but we want to make sure that we ask the people in the same proportions of male and female and the same proportions of who went on what ride. So we're looking at this one, which is the 11, because it says female who went on the log flume, and 11 people did. Now it's 11 people out of the 79, but we want a sample of 40. We're not looking to ask all 79, so we're not looking to ask all 11 of those people. So our sample as a fraction of the whole is 40 over 79. That's the fraction that we want of each of the 6 groups of people. The male who went on Big Dipper, the male who went on the log flume, etc., and the females who went on those rides. So the first thing to do on stratified sample is find out the fraction of the amounts of people that you need. And we want that fraction of 11. So just times it by the amount that we're interested in. So I'll do that on my calculator now. 40 over 79 times 11 equals 5.5692 blah blah blah. Now unfortunately, fortunately, you can't carve up a person, so there's no point of having 5.56 as an answer. You need to make sure that you have an integer as an answer if you're talking about amounts of people or amounts of things. So if you have a question just like this, where it's just talking about one of them, you can normally just safely round it. There are some types of question where you need to work out whether it works, whether when you add up all 6 options, it does add up to 40. Now sometimes it will add up to 39 or 41, and you've got to see the one that was closest to rounding the other way and round that the other way. For this type of question, because we're only looking at one and it's quite a simple question, I wouldn't go into that much detail. Okay, so this question is asking us to find unknown lengths. Now, the easiest way of approaching this question is to draw the 2 triangles, the little one and the big one, separately. So I'm going to do that really quickly. I'm going to draw the small one, and I'm going to draw the big one. There we go. And I'm going to fill in the length. So this small one has 37 here, and 17 at the bottom here. This big one has 50 down the side, and 34 at the bottom. Okay, now a second most important thing to realise with this question is that these 2 triangles are mathematically similar. The reason is that the top angle here is shared. These 2 here are both corresponding because they're off a parallel line, and it's the same with these 2. And any 2 triangles that have exactly the same angles will always be similar, which means that one's an enlargement of the other. And with enlargements, we're always thinking about scale factors. So we've got to find out what you times 17 by to get to 34. So on my calculator, I do 34 divided by 17. I probably shouldn't need to do it on the calculator, because obviously the answer is 2. So if I'm timesing that side by 2, and I'm looking for length AD. Now AD is this one here. how do I get from 37 to AD? And remember, it's corresponding side, so it would be the left-hand side will go to the left-hand side. So I'll times that by 2. So it would be 37 times 2, which is going to be 74. So my answer will be 74. And the last one, let's do it in a different colour. Now we're looking for length CE. So CE is a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because CE is this bit here. So all I need to do is work out what AC is, which is this one here. So let's work out what AC is. So to go from the big one to the small one, instead of timesing by the scale factor, I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide it by 2. So AC is 25. Now if AC is 25 and the whole thing is 50, so let's try and make this a bit clearer. So the whole thing is 50 and AC is 25, so this bit up until this bit, then CE must be 25 as well, because it's 50 take away 25, which is 25. Whenever we see a 3D shape in a question, you've got to ask yourself, is the question asking for a volume or a surface area? And that should be the first question that goes into your mind. Yes, it might be asking for something else, but those are the main two. We're looking at this, we're filling the swimming pool with water, so it's going to be a volume question. Now, way of approaching this is figure out what the shape is. Well, the shape is a trapezium-based prism. So we've got to first of all work out what the area of the trapezium is. So I'm going to draw the trapezium out first. And that height is going to be 2.7 that side, 5.3 that side, and 25 across. And I'll leave off meters because I know they're all in meters, but do check they are all in meters when you do this. So we've got to first of all work out the area. Now the area of a trapezium is half A plus B H. Now A and B are always the two parallel sides, and then the height is the one that connects them at right angles. So the height is going to be 25 there. And all you're doing is working out the average of the two bases, the 2.7 and the 5.3. We're going to times that by 25. Okay, so we'll crack our calculator out. 2.7. Some of you will probably see this straight away. So the first bit comes out as 4, because halfway between 2.7 and 5.3 is 4, and then times 25 is going to be 100. So the area is 100 meters squared. Now, for a prism, so volume, all you need to do is work out the area of the cross section, which is this bit here, the bit we just worked out, and then times it by how 3D it is. I think they call that the length officially, 15 meters. So the volume is going to be 100 meters squared times 15, which is going to be 1,500 meters cubed. So that's what the volume is, and it says the machine transports the water at a rate of 20 meters cubed per minute. So in 1 minute it's going to be 20, in 2 minutes 40. The other way of working this out, or the other way of thinking about this, is how many 20s are there in 1,500? So we can say time equals, so this is how much it's got to fill, and this is how much it does per minute. So on the calculator, 1,500 divided by 20, which equals 75 minutes. So it's going to take 75 minutes to fill the pool. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it useful. Don't forget you can go onto our website onmaths.com, which I'm sure the link will appear above me, to practice this paper and practice other papers as well. We've got all the previous year's predictions as well, which might be useful. And also we've got the new revisionator coming out, so we're really excited. If you've enjoyed this video, please click like. If you want to see more from us, especially paper 3, please click subscribe. Thank you very much.